Hey YouTube, how you all going? I'm back in Australia and thought I'd do another video on my World's Toughest Mudder journey and kind of mention a few other points. I still have a lot of videos I want to get out covering equipment, training, a whole heap of things. The reason why I'm doing this, even though the event is over and even though I'm back in Australia, is because I got a lot of benefit out of reading other people's blogs, Facebook posts, that kind of thing. And I hope that by doing these videos I can pull some of that information together, put it in an easy to digest format for you guys, and then that way if you're looking at going next year, there's some stuff here you might be able to pick up. Obviously, you know, looking at guys like Pack and Amelia Boone, the winners, will help a lot as well, and obviously they know what they're talking about in terms of training. But if you're coming from not an average Joe perspective, but coming from someone who maybe hasn't been like an elite level, or you know, done a lot of training or a lot of marathons or that kind of thing, hopefully you get a little bit out of this. So that's kind of the focus, I guess, of this video. I'm going to be talking about the training I did in the lead up to the World's Toughest Mudder. Now before I get into that though, I want to say that this is not how I would train if I had a longer lead-in time. When I qualified for the World's Toughest Mudder, it was October, so I literally had about 5 or 6 weeks before I was flying out to New York and then going down to do the event. Prior to that, and prior to doing Tough Mudder in Sydney, which was held in September, most of my training focused on running up to about 20 kilometres. So I do 3 runs a week, and 2 of those are probably a bit shorter, around the 10-15k mark. One of them would be the longer run, 20. Sometimes I went a little bit further than that. And on top of that, I went to the gym 5 days a week, just doing various exercises, focusing on the different muscle groups each day, so weight-based training. But I wasn't, I wasn't trying to like lift a whole ton of weight, because my focus was on running fast, and I was kind of looking for that, I guess, balance. After qualifying for the World's Toughest Mudder, I knew that obviously the training I'd been doing wasn't as ideally suited, but I also knew that with 5 weeks or 6 weeks until the event, there was no way I was going to be able to build up to being able to run like 100 kilometres in one go or anything like that. There just wasn't enough time. And I know as well, like sports science and that, they say, it takes months and years to develop endurance, but I'd qualified and I was going to do whatever I could in that short amount of time to make sure I could last the 24 hours. So essentially what I did was I did back-to-back runs of 20 to 35 kilometres on consecutive days. So I started out running 20 kilometres, say on like the Monday, then on the Tuesday I'd run 20 kilometres again, and then on the Wednesday I'd do it again. Then after 3 days I'd normally have to have a bit of a break because the legs were getting tired, but when I started running again I did 25k's, and then 25k's the next day, 25k's the next day, bit of a break. So by the 3rd week I was up to 30k's, 30k's Monday, 30k's Tuesday, 30k's Wednesday. Smaller, shorter runs, maybe on like the Friday if my legs still weren't fresh. And what I also did was go to the gym and get on the stationary bike and ride for an hour. I did that on days after my runs, so I might have ran 25k in the morning and then gone and done, an hour cycle. Or on the days where I'd done the 3 runs and then say on the Thursday I was just too tired in my legs to go out there and do a 20k run or a 30k run, I'd go to the gym and do the bike anyway, because it's a lot less strenuous, I guess, on the body, and you can just, even if your legs are tired, you can just keep them ticking over on the bike. It's not too much of a drama. So on top of that, obviously I still tried to do as much of my weight-based training as possible, but I did kind of cut it down a bit just because of time constraints. You can't run 30 kilometres, do an hour bike ride, and then have a lot of time left over for weight-based training on top of working and family commitments, everything like that. So I did not burn out, but towards the end I did start to feel the effects of that. Come the 5th week, just constantly doing all that exercise, it did start to build up on you, the amount of, the tiredness and stuff. But by doing those back-to-back runs, I was at least able to increase, my weekly mileage or the number of kilometres I was doing significantly. rather than just doing one long run and then like 2 or 3 shorter runs during the week. So that's how I train, guys, in the lead up to the World's Toughest Mudder. I would say if you averaged it out, keeping in mind the first week I was doing 20Ks, then 20Ks, 20Ks, and then increased it by 5Ks each week for the consecutive runs. I'd say on average I was probably doing about 90 kilometres a week, maybe 100 kilometres a week in training for 4 weeks. The 5th week I started to taper down a bit, and then I got the injury that I've talked about before. So when I got to New York, obviously I wasn't going to run 100Ks, and that wasn't the plan anyway. Once I got to New York, the plan was just to do 3 shorter runs of 10K. So that's what I did. I think with my training, I did 5 laps. I think if everything had gone well and you weren't going into it with an injury that started to play up on you a little bit later on, again, not using this as an excuse, but just trying to put some context to it, I think the amount of training that I did, and also having the base that I had before from my previous runs over the past 7 months and the weight training and the soccer, I think that training could take you to 6 laps. So 1 more than I did. I think if you want to start going beyond 7 laps and being competitive, I think if you timed it right and you could, you might be able to do 7, but you're not going to be competitive. I'd say 6. But if you want to go beyond that, go to 7, 8, higher than that, and be competitive, you certainly need to be putting in more miles than that, more kilometres. From what I've heard, Pac was running 200 miles a week in training. So that's a huge, huge number. And I think obviously to start being competitive, and to me I think competitive based on this year's results is 7, 8 and obviously 9 laps. So going those last 3 laps, you need to run more. And I'd also look at doing more, improving my weight training as well, so that when you are tired on lap 5 and 6 and stuff, you still have some ability to get over, Berlin walls and do funky monkey, everything like that. So anyway, guys, that's how I trained. I'm going to put up a video now or shortly after this on how I would train, so check that out as well. And please always rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks very much.